Welcome to episode number 102 of Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for marketing, advertising, and public relations and communications professionals. We are recording live on Google Hangouts on air in June 27, 2015. We always start off with the worst stories that happened in online communications. BL, you have the honors as usual. What was the worst story?
Well, first of all, I want to apologize for the slight technical difficulties. Well, more than slight. But here we are, and we hope you're here too. In my opinion, the worst thing that happened this week has to do with Facebook, who has now introduced instant articles. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. The reporters are Lucas Alpert and Jack Marshall. And oh joy, here comes more content being pushed through the already way too busy Facebook newsfeed. So publishers are about to ramp up content distribution on Facebook's instant articles, and people familiar with it said some newsrooms are going to post dozens of articles every day. Why are they doing that? Advertising. Under Facebook's new program, advertisers are going to get to keep, publishers are going to get to keep 100% of the revenue brought in from ads that they sell, and 70% if Facebook sells the ad. So it's making the media sell ads on Facebook. How do you like them apples? So the New York Times is ready to publish 30 articles a day directly to Facebook's newsfeed. The Atlantic is prepared to make the most of its content available through the program. And NBC News is going to post 30 to 40 articles a day to the stream. And by publishing these articles, instead of linking to on Facebook, instead of linking to their own site, they hope they're going to increase exposure to the fact that they exist, as if we didn't know, and because they're on a service that has so many billions of people watching, and they hope that that is going to send people back to their site to see who's originating this wonderful content. I think that is such a dumb idea.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about instant articles before. I think it's short-sighted on behalf of the publishers, because they're basically, you know, the one thing that they can do to create and maintain an audience and create a relationship with their viewers, with their readers, with their audience is getting them back to their site and creating that relationship there. And they're sort of, I mean, we've seen this movie before with Facebook brand pages, where people built up a lot of huge following on Facebook on their brand pages. Then all of a sudden Facebook says, well, you gotta pay to reach those people now. So I think it's a bit short-sighted.
Well, yeah, Facebook wins here. I don't know who else wins. You know, that's the bottom line. Yeah, short-sighted is a good way to put it. So what bad news did you find us, Dave?
This is pretty awful news. Last Sunday's episode of Meet the Press was, not surprisingly, top story was a discussion of the Charleston massacre, and they followed that up with a so, I mean, obviously the Charleston massacre featured a white supremacist terrorist murdering 9 African Americans worshiping in a church. The Meet the Press team ran a segment after that discussion featuring convicted murderers giving advice to their 12-year-old selves. So it's very powerful, very moving, except every one of them was black. So it was left to the to Eugene Washington, the black columnist for the Washington Post, to point out the obvious, that we were just talking about a white person terrorizing black people, and you're following it up with a segment of all black people who are murderers, giving the implication that gun violence is strictly associated with black people. And so it was an awkward moment. Predictable backlash on social media. Chuck Todd, the host of Meet the Press, was trending on Twitter. He later released an explanation on their site, said the original decision to air this segment was made before Wednesday's massacre. However, the staff and I had an internal debate about whether to show it at all this week. When we discussed putting it off, that conversation centered around race and perception, not the conversation we wanted the segment to invoke. We decided against delaying the segment because we wanted to show multiple sides of what gun violence does in this country. So they had a conversation. The conversation was about about race and how people would react to that. And that they decided to run it anyway. Poor editorial judgment. Anybody who is producing content, especially these people who are in the profession of doing it, need to understand context. It's just an example of clueless white people, I think. Oh my God.
Truly clueless white people. I mean, what a stupid thing to do. You know, there was such real idiocy that revolved around the response to the shootings, to the murders. You know, the whole debate about the Confederate flag, and the real issue is gun control. Let's talk about gun control. And you know, every retailer jumping on the bandwagon. We're going to stop selling Confederate flags. Well, how about if you stop selling guns and bullets? You know, how about if you support gun control? I'm sorry. And then you do something like this. This is just tasteless, clueless. You got the word right, that's for sure. So, nowhere near as stupid, but then what could be? Amazon announced that they're going to pay self-published Kindle authors only for the pages that are read of the books that are rented, that they self-publish, of the books that are rented in the Amazon lending program. So if you don't read the whole book, which I think is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard, then you're not going to get the whole royalty, which, by the way, is about 25 cents anyway. And Peter Moss, the writer and the editor, he said, Amazon to pay writers based on pages read on Kindle. I'd like the same in restaurants. Pay for how much of a burger I eat. It's just a really bad precedent. It's a really bad idea. Okay, now it's Kindle. They're going to experiment with it on Kindle, and then it's going to be all of Amazon. You already can't make any money as an author unless you're, you know, a million seller. This is just a really bad precedent. You know, they go through this whole thing about royalties, and they resolve it, and then they find another way to take them away. I'm sorry, wrong, bad. I hate this.
I think it's a good idea.
I
think it's a really good idea. So first of all, this is not a precedent. Throughout recorded history, throughout recorded history, the people who control the presses control the distribution of royalties, right? I mean, that's just the way it has been. Magazine publishers pay a premium for a brand name. John Updike and Stephen King get a lot more than you or I would if we got published in the magazine. That's just the way it is. This gives you analytics about how far people are reading into your stuff. I think
give it to yourself and give the author their royalties. I'm sorry.
Well, they're still getting royalties. It's just based on whether they're good enough to maintain people's attention throughout their content.
3 cents instead of the 25 cents that they.
A writer's first job is to be entertaining. If you're not entertaining, and I mean that broadly, if you're not maintaining people's attention throughout your message, then you're failed. So there you go. Work harder. Be a better writer. I think it's a great idea.
It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. You have more bad news, you know. I actually don't, but yours is about influencer marketing is quite fascinating.
Yeah, so this is from Steam Feed. The reporter's name is Dan Sullivan. In his article, he warns about influencer marketing companies. These are people who will sell you influencers, access to influencers, basically, and guarantee you a certain amount of impressions, a certain amount of tweets, a certain amount of They're almost exclusively powered by a small hyperactive group of sweepstakes and prize hunters, Sullivan says. These influencers have social profiles that tweet and share out almost exclusively sponsored content and nothing else, often hundreds of times a week. They aren't providing any real value. 95% of the engagement is generated from other incentivized sweepstakes hunters, and it's really easy to verify. I mean, all you need to do is search Twitter for a hashtag sponsored or a hashtag for a known campaign, and look at the profiles of the people, and you'll see what they're up to. So you're not reaching real customers with a lot of these programs. Sullivan himself, he's the CEO of Crowdly, an advocate marketing platform. So he's got his own agenda, but still, it's good advice. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. If you're thinking about using an influencer marketing company, then check them out and see exactly what they're doing.
You know, back in the days when I had a PR firm and we were trying to explain to clients, and this is like 15 years ago, we were trying to explain to them that it's not a matter of how many placements you get, it's a matter of the value of those placements. So now you're trying to explain to clients it's not a matter of how many followers you have, it's a matter of how many of them are actual people, it's a matter of how many of them actually are involved in that platform and therefore have some possibility of reading or interacting with your content. It's just sort of changed, you know, what clients want in terms of numbers, but numbers are what they still want. And as long as that is how clients are going to measure what they think is success, there's going to be people like that out there. There's people who sell you YouTube views. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So the role of communicators is to educate clients as to which numbers they should be paying attention.
Absolutely, but it's a hard job.
Yeah, it is.
It's a really hard job. So is that bringing us to better news?
It is indeed.
Okay, well, Google is doing some very interesting things in the area of news. And this past week, this is from a TechCrunch article by Sarah Perez, and they've launched something called News Lab, and the purpose of it is to aid journalists. And it's a destination that wants to connect journalists with programs, data, and other resources, and it will have tools for newsrooms, tutorials, best practices on how to use Google products and reporting. And they've recently also, as you're going to talk about later, updated Google Trends, and they will have tutorials on that. And it also announced a series of initiatives for supporting and verifying new videos on YouTube. So this includes Witness Media Lab, which produces in-depth projects on human rights issues, partnering with Google, and then the First Draft collection, which teamed up with journalism experts to train other journalists on video verification, research, and ethics. So this is an interesting move on Google's part to become more proactive and more of a source in the news area, and I think it's a very interesting and useful move.
Yeah, they are focusing on journalism in particular. They actually last week had an algorithm update that related to that. It appears to, so they updated the search algorithm, appears to favor journalism sites. What it looks like it's doing is they're taking into account now real-time search data. So as people are searching for a breaking story, the data from those queries will factor into visibility for what content is shown for those types of those related searches. I've got a post of this on our agency blog. But the end result is, if more news is floating to the top and more visible at the top of search results for a given story, that makes earned media and PR all the more valuable, because you're getting more reach, more visibility for those stories themselves. So that's an interesting. I think it's partly in reaction, though, Google's focus on news in what other social media sites are doing with related to news. So Twitter and Facebook. Facebook is now last week announced that they're going to factor time on page or time on story as a ranking signal in their own algorithms. This is from a Facebook story, actually a Facebook post by Ansha Yu. And so they figured just because someone didn't like, comment, or share a story in their newsfeed doesn't mean it wasn't meaningful to them or valuable to them. There are times when people see information about a serious news event but don't necessarily want to like or comment on it, right? I've done that plenty of times. So their Facebook is updating its newsfeed ranking to factor in those news signals, how much time you spend viewing a story in your newsfeed. But it's not a simple measure of time. So some people might spend 10 seconds on a story because they really enjoy it. Other people might be spending 10 seconds on a story because they have an abysmally slow internet connection. So what they're doing is taking into a relative factor. If people spend significantly more time on a particular story than the majority of the other stories they look at in their newsfeed, then that's a good sign that content was relevant to them, and that's going to be another ranking factor.
I don't know about that, because many times when I'm multitasking, I may leave my tab open on a story in Facebook or anywhere else. That doesn't mean that I was interacting with it in any way. I think I think Facebook's way of measuring things is is rather bizarre. And I think that this is just another indication that they don't really get how people use their platform. It's a platform for birthdays and friends. And if you want your news, I think you go somewhere else, unless you're Robert Scoble, who insists that Facebook is the greatest place for news ever. I don't agree with him, and I don't agree with this point of view about Facebook as a news source. I just don't see it that way.
That's because you're a boomer, I'm a Gen Xer, and millennials are getting the news from Facebook. It's just, the stats say that over and over again. So it's, well, people are using it, just we're not.
They can have it. So on to better news. There's a wonderful campaign by Smile Train, which helps to fix cleft palates and for babies all over the world, for children all over the world. And, you know, it's a really hard thing to look at when you see a kid who has this deformity. So what they've done is they have something called #SeriousBaby, and it's at SeriousBaby.org. And they have a serious baby, 9-month-old Walter, and he's on a smile strike until all the babies with unrepaired cleft lips and palates can smile. So videos put Walter, who's adorable, but not smiling, in situations that make most babies smile, but he refuses. And so the donations that come as a result of SeriousBaby are going to help doctors all over the world to repair cleft palates free. So it's appealing to a younger demographic, and proof that Gen X, Y, and Z all respond to stories about individuals, and also that they give more than other generations when they see stories. So you see, for example, one where baby Walter, SeriousBaby, is in you know, he's in those kinds of things where the baby goes into a vat of balls and they roll around and they laugh, and he says, "This is the pits," and because it's a ball pit, and he won't smile because other babies can't smile. I think it's a brilliant campaign.
It's a very, very clever way to do that, and it goes with the new. I mean, the new finds that nonprofits are learning is that when you tell a story that's utterly depressing to try and make the point that you need to help people, people don't respond to that. They just get depressed. So you need to find a more sophisticated way of telling the story, and this is a perfect example of that. You know, it's charming. But it also gets across the point that people need help, and obviously it's working.
Well, you know, the campaign that it's still out there. I still see it late at night for the ASPCA, where she's singing "In the Arms of an Angel," and they're showing you like the faces of all these poor little animals in cages, and they all look so pathetic. And instead of having the response like, "Oh my God, I better get my wallet," I think like, "Oh my God, I better change the channel," or
yeah,
"Oh my
exactly.
God, I better jump out the window," because it's just so freaking depressing. So now, you know, this new approach it's working. It's working. You know, I hope other nonprofits will take note. So tell us some more good news.
Well, more news-related stuff. So Facebook is offering author tags that publishers can implement. So this is you know, Google
Plus dropped.
Exactly. Yep. So publishers can implement it on their site. It's a strip of code they can add. It connects the byline and the newsfeed story preview to the writer's page or profile with a follow call to action. The connection between the byline page or profile is created by when a person clicks through to a web article posted on Facebook and then returns to their newsfeed after reading the article, they'll see a story preview will display a follow button at the bottom of the newsfeed unit about, you know, the individual news unit for journalists with Facebook profiles, or a like button for journalists with Facebook pages, and a text link to the author's profile page is displayed as well. So people click on the follow or like, obviously they're going to start receiving updates from that individual journalist. So this is another way of integrating news into the newsfeed, but also a personal branding tool for journalists, individual journalists themselves.
And what about for bloggers? Can we have them?
I have yet to try it out. I'm going to try it out, so I'll report back when I find out.
Because that was one of the mysterious things that Google Plus took away. That was a great thing. It was a way for you to actually brand your content in search. And, you know, they took it away. I don't know why they did that. if Facebook is putting it back, it's a very smart thing on their part, and I would actually use it. So also Google this week, YouTube redesigned the YouTube player, and I got this from YouTube, and it's called Test Tube, and it's an idea incubator, and they're testing experimental features, and they say concocted by YouTube's mad scientists, and they would like you to tell them what you think. And so the first thing they want you to do is try out the redesigned YouTube player, and it scales to any size screen or embed size, and they keep on adding features. It has 4K video, it has ultra high definition, it will stream to 2160p. In other words, it's really great quality, clarity, and detail, whether you're there for Minecraft or a makeup video. And to find the new 4K videos, you do a search on YouTube, and then you click Filters 4K, and you'll see a checklist of their favorite 4K videos so that you can see how it's all going to look. And they would like feedback, and there are surveys and all sorts of things like that.
Well, great. Time to buy another camera.
Oh, you're right. Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, right now I'm using the one that's built into the Mac. We'll see if that's not going to be good enough. We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Test Tube, so I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen the new version. Video related, Samsung has a really cool project. They're attaching a screen to the back of their trucks for safe passing. This is from a Mashable story by Chris Perkins. Testing it in Argentina. They're calling it the safety truck. Good name. It's a semi-truck with a wireless camera mounted to the front that displays the road ahead on a screen that's mounted to the back of the truck. So people behind the truck can see the road ahead through the truck to see if it's safe to pass, and or if there's obstacles in the way so they don't have to stop suddenly. Really, really smart idea. It currently isn't operational, but Samsung's working with the government and non-government safety agencies to develop the technology further. But just that's a very, very smart idea. And as you know, display technology goes down in price, it might actually become a viable cost
For cars.
Yep, yeah.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's really a great idea. Again, Google, they did a lot of stuff this week, kind of like the president. Google's having a contest where you can submit artwork to help transform their self-driving cars into moving art. Right now it's just for people in California, and as they start to cruise the streets in Mountain View, they want to make them look good, so they're inviting artists in California to submit their art to be featured on the self-driving prototype cars for a month or more later this year. So, you know, it'd be really cool to see one of the self-driving cars go by with your art on it. I thought that was a pretty wonderful idea.
That's a great idea. I can't wait. Can't wait to see what some of them look like. Public art.
Yeah, public art is just the most fun. You know, we have a lot of that in New York, and some of it is really a hoot. So, did you go through all your news? I think you did.
I'm done.
Okay, so that brings us to shiny new objects. And I have, if I can find it, I have some goodies. Oh, Google Keep, which is not new, but kind of new to me, is a syncing notepad that connects to Google Drive. And quite frankly, it caused me to cancel my Evernote subscription. It supports photos, notes, voice notes, and checklists. So it lets you take and save those notes and share them, and you can do voice memos and checklists and access them on any device. And it used to lack integration with Google Now, but it has now been integrated with Google Now, so it's definitely worth another look. And I find Evernote a little complicated, and this is a lot easier for my little brain. So
very cool. I'll have to give it another look. It's been a while since I've looked at Google.
They've updated it. It looks pretty nice now.
Very good. Well, speaking of Google, I've got 2 Google cool tools. So most
Google all the time this week.
Yeah. So Google Trends, you mentioned, has been updated. It's related to that real-time data that they're taking into account. So now they're, when I love Google Trends, I use it all the time, but sometimes it's hit and miss. If it's a more complicated query, it's less likely to show any data for it. So they added more data. And they're adding real-time search now. So all that real-time search data I talked about in the other story, they're adding to Google Trends. So now when you do comparisons of keywords on Google Trends, you can see the past day, the past 4 hours, and the past hour. You didn't have those options before about what people are searching for. And so I did a blog post on this, examining when people are searching for the Game of Thrones after the fact that the final episode ended for this season, to see how I can promote our Game of Thrones post most effectively when people are going to be most interested in it. So by hour of day, you can figure out those segments. So it's become much more valuable tool in that way. And then secondly, Google Photosphere is an app that allows you to take 360-degree photos. My sister just got done from a trip. Her summer trip was to Manitoba, Canada, to Churchill to hang out with scientists and volunteer on their stuff. She was posting all kinds of fabulous photos to Facebook with grizzly bears and but I wish I would have told her about Photosphere, because she could take 360-degree photos of all this wonderful landscape. So what it is, an app, you take a photo up and down, left and right, all around you, from foot to the sky, and Google stitches all these photos together into a 360-degree photographic environment that anybody with the app can move around in. So you just, on your phone, move around in the app, and you can see the entire environment that somebody's looking for. It's very cool.
That is so cool. I have a friend who's going on a safari. I must tell her about that, because
Absolutely.
that will be really a wonderful thing to take along. If there's Wi-Fi in the area in Africa, I don't know. I have a Twitter app that's called Tweetroot. And what it does is it creates word clouds to give you insight into the behavior of your followers and users. And so you get an idea through word cloud of the public response to hashtags. So it's making word clouds out of things that people are following, and it allows you then to take a look and see how people are using and reacting to a hashtag and what kind of tweets it's generating. It's a very interesting thing, and it's also very nice looking. It allows you to create the way that it looks in different ways that you'll like, but definitely worth a look. It's 99 cents, but I kind of think it's worth it.
Absolutely, that's so cool. I'm downloading that today. That is right up my alley.
That. I know it is. That's your kind of thing.
Very cool.
So I believe that brings us to projects, right?
It does indeed, yes.
And we have such a good one. We have won an award. We were named as one of 10 productivity-inspiring podcasts for PR and marketing pros by MarketWired. And wow, I mean, what an honor. We're in such good company on that list. I was really proud to see that.
Yeah, very cool. There's the list of podcasts in which we are one is impressive. A lot of which all of which I listened to. So it was very cool to see ourselves next to those guys. So very cool. I've got a project. I just this has been a while in the making. My agency, we just launched a video marketing plan ebook. And so if you are thinking of doing a marketing plan, think of marketing with video, this is an ebook you'll want to read to know what to look for and know what to plan for and everything. So we've got that on our site at creativepr.com, and we'll put a link in the show notes to it as well. So
that is very cool, Dave. I didn't know about that. Oh, I like that, and I want that.
For your subscriber.
Yes, I will subscribe. So now that brings us to the daily numbers, and this is a really interesting one.
Yep, so the daily numbers this week, TV multitasking by generation. This is from Deloitte. 9 in 10 Americans age 14 and older claim to always or almost always multitask while watching TV. I do it, and I'm older than 14. I do it all the time. That is up from 81% a couple of years ago. basically the older you get, the less likely you're going to be multitasking. You think about it, that makes sense. Attitudes for the way that, we were brought up. I remember a day when we had 3 TV channels to watch, right? So your focus of attention is on far fewer things. And so that's what we're used to. But as you get younger, you're going to be more likely to have more devices and multitask more. Top multitasking behaviors overall: browsing and surfing the web, reading email, text messaging, using a social network, browsing for products and services online. So if you're smart enough and you're running television ads, or you're doing some product placement, you want to think through the entire experience and how people might be looking for those online while they're watching TV.
That's interesting that we both do it.
Well, I mean, we are communicators, right? We are interested in technology.
Communicators, there are a lot of communicators who don't use social media too, something that I will never understand. But anyway, I royally screwed up the technology here because I did something that you can't do in Hangouts. I pressed the wrong button when I wanted to leave and come back, and I ended the broadcast, and then when I came back, there was no way to restart it because I did the wrong thing. My fault entirely. I apologize. Dave, do you want to take us out?
Well, that's just a lesson for everybody who's doing Hangouts. Just keep that in mind, right?
We should note that we are going to take the 4th of July weekend off, and wish you all a wonderful celebration. And we're going to take 1 week off, and then we'll be back following week.
Going to celebrate our nation's birthday and not do a podcast. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks. This has been Beyond Social Media Show. You can find us beyondSocialMediaShow.com. I am David Erickson. You find me at D Erickson on Twitter. My blog is e-strategyblog.com. BL you can find on Twitter at What's Next, and her blog is what'snextblog.com. She writes for Ad Age, and she is also the CEO of maximum-plus.com, where you can hire her for all things Google Plus and video.
So we'll see you in 2 weeks, and we will get the news to you, and we wish you a happy holiday. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.